next session this morning is Because We Are St. Thomas. And before I start, I want to acknowledge, if you need to stand and stretch, move around while we're talking, we completely understand. So please do. I know I can't sit for too long, so please feel free to do that. So our session this morning is focused on partnering, how we can partner with you as parents and explaining all of the support resources that are here for your students. You heard from Dr. Wyatt this morning about all of the rich learning that occurs through academics at St. Thomas. You heard that from Dr. Williams, Dr. Waldner. We have a phenomenal faculty who will be teaching and guiding your students. This morning, we want to recognize, though, all of the personal development that occurs outside of the classroom. And sometimes that's through a co-curricular leadership opportunity, like student government or a club or activity. Sometimes it's being a member of an athletic team. Sometimes it's learning that occurs because a student is just going through a really challenging time. And sometimes it's because of a poor choice that a student made on a Friday night. We will challenge and support your students both in and out of the classroom. We are a community that cares. We pride ourselves in that. And this morning we will talk with you about the various ways we will support your students and how you can be partners with us. So I'd like to begin by introducing some of my colleagues who are on stage. And we have Erica Thompson, who's our Associate Director of Residence Life. Jesse Langer is our Assistant Dean of Students who oversees conduct. Dan Mavison is our Director of Public Safety. And I also want to make sure to introduce you to Sister Sharon Howell is standing in the back. She has a purple shirt on and she's waving. Sister Sharon Howell is another one of our assistant deans, and she's also the parent liaison. So she's a name you might want to jot down. Sister Sharon is often a contact the parents will call first if they have a concern about their student, or you may end up calling a Residence Life staff member. But Sister Sharon will always guide you and help you get to the right place on campus if you are in need of checking in with a staff member. So to kick us off, we're gonna start our conversation this morning with a short video where we have some students talking about their experiences and some challenging times that they experienced at St. Thomas and how they worked through those times.
I have a story, not a made-up story, but something that actually happened to me.
We could make up stories about people that don't exist. Or we could tell you about our first years here, what we experienced.
About the moments in my life that have taught me things. Important lessons that I keep with me today. Lessons that have made me a stronger individual.
I'm sure it's not all that interesting,
But I have a story.
I didn't struggle very much with the workload in high school, and I thought that college was going to be the same way. I was wrong. College is serious. One semester in, and reality hit me. The grades I received for my classes were not what I expected, and it was my fault. I was consistently procrastinating on my assignments, and I barely attended classes. I knew I could have done better.
Coming into St. Thomas as a commuter was difficult. I didn't have a core group of friends, so getting involved was a constant struggle. I had trouble making friends in classes, I didn't know what I was doing, and I felt dejected that I wasn't living the picturesque university experience. I wanted a place to belong.
It was going to be a really great night. I was excited to see my friends. We were talking and dancing, and we started to drink. One of the girls that we were with was starting to not feel well. Other friends left for the party, but I stayed back with her. After she felt up to it, I walked her back to her room. I set her up on the couch and left around midnight. The next morning, I got a call from my friend. She said that our friend I had brought back to her room had been raped and then taken to the hospital that same night.
My first year, I struggled a lot with managing my time in order to get both my schoolwork done and having a social life. First semester, I did okay, but my second semester was much harder. I started going out on the weekends and watching a lot of Netflix during the week. I was often too tired to do my schoolwork, and my grades dropped. I also started having trouble with my depression and anxiety. With all of this going on, my grades really slipped, and by finals, I was in a full-blown panic attack. I knew my GPA was going to drop significantly, and I was scared for what that would mean with my scholarships and my future.
It can be difficult to fit in when everyone else seems so different from you. I was fortunate enough to have a group of upperclassmen take me under their wing. I was introduced to Tabletop Gaming Club, one of the many student organizations, and I started spending more time in off-campus student services, a place that gave me the resources I needed to get on my feet.
I realized I needed help, so I went to academic counseling. We sat down and made a 4-year plan that would put less stress on me each semester. They also coached me on how to better manage my time in order to bring my grades back up. I visited counseling and psychological services in order to actively deal with my depression and anxiety. They provided me with a counselor for free. Without them, I would have let my depression take complete control of my life, and it may have resulted in me dropping out or something worse.
My friend was raped. I never thought I'd be saying that. She got treated at the hospital and told her parents what had happened. They encouraged her to visit counseling, which she said helped a little. She even did some group counseling with other survivors. She also reported the guy to the university and had a formal investigation. Through all of this, I tried to support her. I listened when she needed someone. I helped her where I could. She relied on me a lot during this time.
I knew I needed help, so I went to my academic advisor. When I met with him, he told me about multiple places that I can go for help. He suggested that I go to the Writing Center. I went to them, and they helped me edit my papers, and I learned a lot of tips from them that I still use on my papers today. He also suggested the Math Resource Center and department tutoring as options to help me throughout my studies.
Eventually, I started to feel drained and depressed myself because of all of this. I knew it was nothing compared to what she was going through, but I was starting to struggle too. I was depressed and I knew it. I ended up going to counseling services too, and then continued to see someone until my depression was less serious. I knew that I couldn't continue caring for my friend if I wasn't also taking care of myself.
Using these resources and working hard, my grades have improved. I still go to the Writing Center when I need help with my papers, and now I have a better sense of the time and effort I need to put in to earn the grades I want. It hasn't been easy, but the support I received has helped equip me to better manage my time and focus on my success.
As I look back over the time I've spent here, I realize that I was right. Everyone else was so different from myself, but now I see what a good thing that was. The great variety of people here at UST is the one thing that helps make sure that each and every student on our campus is included in one way or another.
All of these problems weren't magically solved my freshman year, and even now, as a junior, I still find myself at academic counseling and the counseling services a few times a semester to keep myself on track. I honestly love going to both of these places because my grades and depression were things I wasn't ready to talk about with my friends and family, but they provided me with a safe space where they helped me to see that I had a lot of hope and things would get better for me.
It is important to know these specific events that happen to us may never happen to you.
We all have a different path in college, and everyone will transition and learn in different ways.
You must understand, though, that others will be dealing with this.
Your friend, classmate, roommate, teammate,
Or even you may find yourself dealing with something unexpected or difficult in this new environment.
We wanted to show you that it is normal to have difficulties, that they just come along with college sometimes.
We also wanted to show you that with a little help and support, you can make your way through it and truly be successful here.
you are now part of a large, caring community where many people are invested in your safety, well-being, and success.
So whatever you might be dealing with now, or anything that comes up,
If a friend has past difficulties or if she or he comes to you with new troubles,
Finding the support you need is not difficult.
Know that we are all here to help, and with the support of St. Thomas, you can make it.
Whatever your story is,
you don't have to feel alone.
You are worth taking care of.
there are places on this campus you can go.
There are people on this campus who care.
Great. Well, I like to acknowledge, after we show that video, the tenor in the room usually changes a little bit, and understandably. The students have shared some very sensitive and difficult topics in their stories. I hope that a big part of what you heard is that there are a lot of skilled staff on campus who are here to support your students through a myriad of issues that they may encounter. Certainly some of them they're going to go through their 4 years and not necessarily need any of those support services. But our work with college students tells us that we know there's a fair percentage who are going to need some extra support when they're here. And that's a lot of what the work we do is. I want to encourage you, the students talked about resources they used. In your parent planner, you have all those resources. So of course they're online. They're also in your parent planner. And I'd ask you to take some time to go through that and become familiar with the support places on campus. You certainly may be in a position as your student is talking to you in September, October, November, it might be March, but where you may be cluing into them needing to check out one of these places on campus. And that's one way you can partner with us, is to know the resources and encourage your students to use them. This morning you heard about FERPA from Dr. Waldner. This afternoon you'll hear about HIPAA when Health Services talks with you. And those are all policies in place to protect students' privacy. We certainly honor those policies. We also want to communicate to you this morning that if we ever have a concern about your students' health or safety, we will call you. We will call you if we have a concern about your students' health or safety. We also ask that if you have a concern, that you reach out to us so that we can, again, partner and explore what might be going on with your student and find them some help. And that first call, again, might be to the Dean of Students' office, or it might be to somebody in residence life. Sometimes it's directly to public safety if it's a very immediate concern about your student's health or safety. I'm going to share with you as we continue this morning, I want to share our mission statement. And I think this helps frame a little bit of the topics that we're about to discuss with you. We, in our mission statement, you've heard it referred to this morning, we strive to develop students to be morally responsible leaders who think critically, act wisely, and work skillfully. And that happens in the classroom, but it also happens with the encounters that all of the people on stage have with students and with the people that they supervise. It happens in the student development side of our campus. And we have policies in place also that help support this mission statement and help to create an environment where all students feel welcome and safe to come and learn every day. And so sometimes we need to do that through policies also. I'm going to highlight just a couple policies today for you to be familiar with. And the first one is the Good Samaritan statement. And what this statement is, and I should tell you, your students are hearing about this right now in their small groups. So the content we're covering with you, they are getting in a peer-to-peer way with their student leaders this morning, okay? The Good Samaritan statement exists to say if you are ever concerned about a friend's safety, and perhaps that friend has violated our student code of conduct. So perhaps it's a Saturday night and a student who's under 21, or for that matter, over 21, because anybody, if they've drank too much and a friend's concerned about their safety, we want the friend to call public safety right away. We don't want the fear of getting in trouble to ever prevent someone from calling public safety for help. So this policy exists to say, call for help. We'll work through and support the student who got themselves in that situation without the student having a fear of the conduct system hanging over their head, okay? So your students are getting the message. The first thing you do is call if you're ever afraid a student is in danger. The hate, crimes, and bias-motivated incidents policy we take very seriously. We are a microcosm of society. I wish we could prevent every incident like this from ever occurring on our campus. I wish we could do that. But the fact is that from time to time we do have incidents on our campus also, and we work swiftly to try and figure out who's responsible for the incident. We work to repair harm where harm may have occurred, and we want you to know that it's a conviction of our university to create a safe and respectful climate for every student. And it's important that I also highlight for you our sexual misconduct policy. Certainly if you've been reading the paper and watching the news these last few years, you've heard about universities with complex issues related to sexual misconduct policy. So our policy stems from our Title IX and the Violence Against Women Act regulations. It's a very thorough policy. It's a very thorough process that we engage in if a student makes a report. It's all online. You can see our policy and our processes online. We do ongoing training for faculty and staff related to our sexual misconduct policy. And if we receive a report, we take it, again, very seriously. We engage in a process where any students involved are provided with support through the process. If a student's found responsible for violating the policy, I will tell you the sanctions range depending on what violation occurred. And certainly if it's a more serious violation, then a student may be suspended from the university or possibly expelled, again, depending on the nature of the violation. So I also want you to know that all of your students are going through a required online training. Some of them have probably done it already. It was on their orientation checklist. But they'll get an email from our Vice President of Student Affairs reminding them to complete this training before they come to campus. And it's called Not Anymore. They do need to complete it by August 31st, which is the day before they move in. And this is a video-based program that takes a little under an hour typically for a student to complete. I would encourage you, after your students have watched Not Anymore, to open up a conversation with them. And I know, depending on the dynamic in your family, for some of you, that's probably really easy. And for some of you, that might be a conversation you're a little more timid to enter into. I would ask them about the video. I would consider asking questions like, what stood out to you after watching the video? What kinds of pressures around dating or around drinking and dating are you concerned about before you go to college? How can you find support to make decisions that are true to who you are and true to our family values? Those are conversations you can enter into. And believe it or not, I'm a mom of a teenage daughter and a almost teenage son. Believe it or not, we know that they do want you to talk to them about relationships. There was a 2017 study from Harvard that recently came out, and that said that 70% of 18 to 25-year-olds want more guidance from their parents on relationships. So even though they might not always directly convey that to you, we know that they're looking towards you. So you'll hear me more than once today talk about open communication with your students. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Erica Thompson, who is our Associate Director of Residence Life, and she'll talk to you a bit about life on campus.
Good morning, everyone. So as Linda mentioned, I'm one of the associate directors in our department, and in my role, I supervise all of our professional staff, so the folks that Linda mentioned you might be calling if you have concerns about your student. And then if your student is going to be living on campus, there's a session later today where you'll hear from my counterpart who manages our housing and operations. Because we are St. Thomas, we really want your students to be great members of our community. And for many of them, over 92%, that will mean helping them engage in community in their residence halls. We do also invite our commuter students to join us in the halls, and many of the support structures that I'm going to talk about are also available through our off-campus student services office for those students who are not living on campus. So like I said, in residence life, our main focus is community. We really want to connect individually with your students. We want to help connect them to one another, and we want to connect them to the university. We know from the research and from our experience that when your students feel connected, they are more likely to be successful during their time here at St. Thomas. There are a ton of really amazing people who are going to help your student through that process of engaging and connecting with their community and with St. Thomas. These folks are going to provide a support system, but they're also going to challenge your student to learn and grow while they're here. The first person I'm going to talk about is their resident advisor. This is an upper division peer student leader on campus, so at least a sophomore, have lived on campus for a year, and this person will live either on the floor or even on the same wing as your student. So there's one on every floor and one or every wing. They're going to develop one-on-one relationships with your student through intentional conversations and programming. And our intentional conversations are designed for them to sit down one-on-one with your student and really listen to what's going on. So like some of the students in today's video mentioned, those are some of the questions that our RAs might be asking your student. Tell me what's really going on. What are some of the things that you're struggling with? They're also a resource and a peer educator. And so when your student does say, yeah, I just having trouble getting up and going to class, or I'm having trouble in this academic area, the RA will be able to connect them to resources on campus to help them get through that. They will serve as a mediator, particularly for roommate conflicts. The RA will also hold your students accountable for behavior that's not in line with our expectations. And as I mentioned, for students that are living off campus, there are commuter advisors that serve in a very similar role. In addition to those RAs, in every hall, we have a professional staff member that is either an area director or a hall director. The area directors are master's level professional staff, and our hall directors are graduate students who are working on their master's degree here at St. Thomas. This person, the area or hall director, really oversees everything that's happening in the entire hall. So they oversee the operations, they will guide the overall community development, so the programming, the events that are happening in the hall. They'll also do a lot of intentional support and outreach with your student. So say we get a call from you saying that you're concerned about your student because they're telling you that they're not getting along with their roommate. That's one of the ways that our hall or area director can step in. They'll ask you if your student has talked to their RA, but they can also do some outreach to your student too and try and help figure out what's going on. I also serve as a part of a team called our FLAG team, which is a group of different professionals from across the university, all different departments, from counseling and psychological services, disability student services, the dean of students office, financial aid, where we all come together and check in on students that we might be concerned about. And having everyone all in the same room is really helpful to help us figure out the best ways that we can support your student. And so our area and hall directors will help follow up on students that we might be concerned about. They might reach out to your student about a roommate conflict, maybe a conflict that's going on the floor. If they haven't registered for classes, they can probably expect to get a phone call from our area and hall directors, just trying to make sure that they're on track to be successful. This person also manages the conduct in the hall. So, we've talked a few times already today about what might happen if a student isn't meeting the expectations that we set forth for them. We really do hold our students to high expectations here at the university, and we want your students to meet our expectations when they're in our community. Because we care about that community as a whole, we have to hold the individuals within it accountable for their behavior. When that behavior happens in the residence halls or here on campus, it's likely that the conversation about that behavior will happen with their hall or area director. If it happens off campus, you're going to hear from Jessie Langer in just a little bit about what that looks like. So when we meet with your student to follow up with them about this behavior, there are a few goals that we want to happen during that meeting. We want your students to understand our expectations, which is the university policies and the law. We want them to understand their responsibility for their actions, the impact of their behavior on the community and other people. We want to help understand, too, why they engaged in that behavior. So is this something where they felt like everyone else was doing it, and so they felt like they needed to? And we want to offer them some strategies to abstain from that behavior in the future so that they can meet our expectations going forward. This meeting is not about shaming your student, calling them a bad person. It's really about the behavior that they engaged in and how we can help them be successful moving forward. And as an example, I want to share some of the sanctions if we had a conversation around an alcohol policy violation with your student. For the first time, the sanctions would be an $80 fine, an alcohol education course, and a formal warning. So that online alcohol education course is intended to give them a little bit more information about how to make good choices. If they have another violation, that means we know we've talked to them once already. We've tried to set them on the right track, but something isn't going right. And so If they're found responsible a second time, that fine doubles to $160. They are then on formal reprimand, and then we involve you all. And so one of the things that the research has shown us is that contacting parents and guardians can help students change their behavior. And so don't worry, we won't call you at work or catch you off guard telling you about something that your student has done. We ask them to call you and let you know what's going on, and then have you find a time that's convenient and give us a call so that we can talk about how together we can partner to help support your student moving forward and making better choices. If there are policy violations beyond those two, the next step in our conduct process is conduct probation. And that's something we really want to try and prevent our students from kind of working their way up to. When a student is on conduct probation, they're not eligible for a lot of really great opportunities like study abroad or several student leadership positions, including being a resident advisor. And so we really try and help the students course correct before they get to that point of probation. But as I mentioned, this all is really about helping your student be a great member of our community. With support, connection, and the appropriate amount of challenge, we really want your students to grow and succeed in our community. And with that, I will turn it over to Jesse Langer.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Jesse Langer. I am one of the Assistant Dean of Students here at St. Thomas, and my primary responsibility is to oversee our conduct process. Now, as you can imagine, that doesn't make me the most popular guy here on campus. In fact, when I'm out walking around, a lot of students, they break eye contact with me right away, or they'll walk in a 10-foot radius around me because they think I might think of a crazy punishment just for looking at me the wrong way or getting too close. But I can tell you that punishment isn't my style, and I know punishment isn't the style of Erica and her residence life staff either. We work in higher education, and we consider ourselves educators. And so the philosophy behind our conduct process is to educate. Now, because we are St. Thomas, we are closely tied to our mission statement. You'll see parts of our mission statement hanging up around campus. You'll see parts of our mission statement in the materials that you've received from us so far. And I know that I'm not the first person to mention our mission statement to you today. But that word educate, the philosophy behind our conduct process here at St. Thomas, appears right in the middle of that mission statement. It says that we educate students to be morally responsible leaders who think critically, act wisely, and work skillfully to advance the common good. It is my job, and the job of those who are on this stage, to hold our students accountable to that mission statement, both while they're on and off campus. Erica and her residence life staff hold our students accountable to that mission statement in the residence halls and on campus. And it is my responsibility to hold our students accountable to that mission statement when they are off campus. Now, you might be asking, why do you hold your students accountable to the mission statement when they leave campus? And the answer to that question comes in the last three words of our mission statement, the common good. Now, the common good is a broad term. It means a lot of things. But because we are St. Thomas, one thing it means is community. Certainly we have community here on our campus. Certainly we have community here in our residence halls. But the St. Thomas community extends beyond our borders into the neighborhoods that surround campus. And in the neighborhood live our neighbors. Now, we have a positive relationship with our neighbors, but as you can imagine, sharing a neighborhood and a community with a large population of college students comes with its challenges. Some of those challenges include loud parties late at night. Some of those challenges also include large groups of college students walking around the neighborhoods. Some students will vomit or urinate in our neighbors' yards, and some will choose to re-landscape our neighbors' lawns to their liking. We hold our students accountable to the mission statement when they're off campus to educate them that their actions and decisions have effects on other people. We have two partners in this endeavor. The first one are the neighbors themselves. As I mentioned, we have a good relationship with our neighbors, but sometimes they will call us directly and let us know exactly what our students have chosen to do on their lawn and in their neighborhood. As you can imagine, those conversations don't go well. The other partner we have is the St. Paul Police Department. And we have a close relationship with the St. Paul Police Department. They'll let us know when they come across our students. They also run a program called ZAP. And ZAP is an increased patrol that happens on the weekends. The police will drive around. They'll look for loud parties. And when they find one, they will enter that party. They will cite those people who are drinking underage, and they will enforce what's known as the Social Host Ordinance. And the Social Host Ordinance is an extra citation that goes to the host of the party for providing alcohol to those who are under the age of 21. And when that happens, they will obviously come to our office, but they will also be held accountable through the city of St. Paul. So that is an overview of the conduct process here at St. Thomas. We do all of this because we are St. Thomas. We want to educate our students to think critically about their choices, even at 3 or 4 in the morning. We educate them to act wisely based on those choices, even at 3 or 4 in the morning. And we want them to we want them to act wisely to create a positive and safe community, not only here at St. Thomas and in the surrounding neighborhoods, but in the communities and neighborhoods that they enter when they graduate and leave St. Thomas. And with that, I will turn it over to Dan Mavison, who's the Director of our Public Safety.
Thanks, Jesse, and good morning. It's my great pleasure to be here today. I have 2 main goals. One is to welcome you all to the St. Thomas community. I take that very, very seriously because here at St. Thomas, we take the safety of our campus extremely serious as well. So as members of our campus, I get to invite you and ask you that if you hear something or you see something or you know something that doesn't feel right or sound right, you give me a call. You contact us up and let us know so we can look at it and check into it. If you think it's not right, it's probably not right, and I'd like the opportunity to look at it. So my staff, my senior management team has well over 100 years of campus law enforcement experience or regular law enforcement experience as well. We are open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. We never close. Our dispatch center is the primary contact point for most of the community after hours. I have 2 numbers up there. They're very important numbers for your sons and daughters. You don't need to write them down. They're all over your literature, but I'm going to ask you to have a conversation about them. The first one is the general number, that 962-5100 number. That's our general contact number for public safety. That's really important for them to have for escorts, for information, for resources in the evening. Perhaps they lock themselves out of a classroom or something along that line. We do over 25,000 service calls a year. So if you do the math, your sons and daughters, we're going to contact that number. So I invite you to talk to them, have them plug it into their cell phone. They live and die by that cell phone, and that way they know how to get a hold of us instead of, walking around in the middle of the night and going, geez, I wish I had an escort. What's that number? The other one is more important. That's the 962-5555 number. That is our campus emergency number. I bring that up because I will never tell your sons and daughters not to call 911. However, if they're using their cell phone and they dial 911, it goes to the Ramsey County Dispatch Center, then to the St. Paul Police or St. Paul Fire, and then they contact us back. In the meantime, we've lost valuable time. If they use our contact at 5555 in their cell phone, they have that programmed, we respond to the incident, and we also respond to the responding EMS units that are coming to campus. So we have a dual response there that saves time. Time is oftentimes can mean lives. So that's a good one for them to have in there. As Linda said earlier, we are a microcosm of society. We do have crimes and incidents on campus. My area is responsible for reporting those and making you aware of them. All of you to take a look at our webpage for public safety. There's 2 things in there. One is our crime log, and I invite you to read through it and see it. We're very transparent and open. We want you to know what's going on campus. The other one is our Campus Crime Act, or the Clery Report. That's a very important document for campuses and universities. I invite you to look through it again. It will allow you to compare our stats and our stuff with other campuses around the country. Again, this is a very safe neighborhood. We have a very safe campus, but that does not mean that incidents do not take place. It's similar to your personal family space wherever you are living right now. We have 10,000 people, in an 8-block area, so things do occur. If something occurs, something very critical or emergency occurs, I want you to know that we train very closely with St. Paul Police, Fire, and Minneapolis Police and Hennepin County Rescue. We work together on them for major disasters. If a critical incident would occur on our campus, 2 things would happen. We have a mass notification system called UST Alert. All your sons and daughters have the opportunity to sign up for it as soon as they get into Murphy Online, first time they enter into our system. Once that communications is installed, when we put that out, it goes to everybody in the community that's signed up for it. Parents often ask me, how do I get that information? I invite you to follow us on Twitter. That's the easiest way, because as soon as it hits that, it trips our Twitter, and it would notify you as well. So that's the best way to do it. If an emergency takes place, we have a page that's going to come up on our main homepage. That's the UST Cares page. We'll take it over. And that'll give you information on what's transpiring and what incidents and information you can get. We do recognize that communication will be very difficult, so that's our efforts to make sure that you're updated and taken care of. I also have parking and transportation. But before that, I want to go back to something Jesse talked to you about a minute ago. The neighborhood is a real issue, okay? There are quality of life issues. It's taken serious all the way up to the mayor's office. We have a city council member in the neighborhood specifically. They do patrol it. We work, we program, we educate. Our students know it, yet they continue to do some stuff in the middle of the night. If your sons and daughters are not able to care for themselves at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, we will contact you. I tell you all this, 1, not to surprise you, and 2, to make sure if you're from outstate of out of state, you have the opportunity to work with somebody locally, or maybe even the roommate of your son or daughter's parents, to have a plan in place that who can come and get them, so we have an opportunity to work, or a starting point if we have to make that phone call. Excuse me. Second thing, parking and transportation. If your sons and daughters are freshmen, resident students, they're not eligible for a parking permit. We have multiple forms of transportation I'll go through in a minute. In rare incidents, and I do not endorse this, I do not support this, but we have some exception things. We call them freshman contracts. For those parents that truly believe that their sons and daughters need to have a vehicle on campus, it's extremely expensive, and we've found over the many, many years that we've been doing this, it's better if they don't have a car on campus their first year. Gets them networked, makes them work at it, makes them grow up and learn a lot of things. We offer public escorts, public safety escorts, 24 hours a day. There's the St. Thomas Shuttle. It's our bus that runs between campuses every 20 minutes during the regular academic day. Then it slows down in the evenings. Nice rides are bike rentals. We have our cars, obviously walking. There's Metro bus passes. Uber is huge right now. We do use taxi vouchers. So what I'm trying to tell you is there's a lot of opportunities for them to find transportation. On the bottom, we do the regular services of everything else, which is jump starts and lockouts, etc. But last thing, if your sons and daughters are planning on bringing a bike to campus, again, we're a microcosm of society. If you get 500 plus bikes in a small area, you're going to have bike theft. So I ask you, I beg of you, very inexpensive bike, very expensive lock. It turns out to be the best combination for all of us. So with that, I'll give it back to Linda, and thank you all very much.
So I have some really good news to share with all of you. You just heard a lot about, we are transparent with you about our policies and how we work with students who have violated the Student Code of Conduct. The good news is that more now than ever, more students are coming to college who have not drank in high school. So I think we can attribute that to a lot to parents. And there's a lot of students who don't choose to drink at the University of St. Thomas. So we have to balance our message here with being transparent with you about policy and reality. But the other part of that reality is we offer robust campus life at St. Thomas that does not revolve or include drinking. So know that every Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, Campus Life has activities planned. They bring in concerts. They do all kinds of fun college life kind of programming. And the residence halls, that's part of what we do, is provide social interactions for our students within the residence hall community. We have a whole office dedicated to students who live off campus, and that office programs for our students who live off campus. So does the reality of the choice to drink exist? Absolutely. Does the reality of rich campus life exist that does not involve drinking? Absolutely. We also have an incredible athletic teams at St. Thomas. And every week there's one or two different kind of meets or games for students to attend, and they're wonderful teams to watch. So know that we have our athletics and our arts too. We've got great vocal performers on campus who are putting on student concerts. I need you to hear that as parents. And I also want to take a moment to highlight a slide that you're going to see in the next session. And it's the next session is billing and financial aid. Lots of questions for everyone usually on those topics. You're going to see one slide on something called tuition insurance. And I highlight it for you because I have walked beside a lot of families. Well, I don't want to say a lot, but when it happens, it's significant. Families who are going through a difficult time because a student is either very ill or has been in an accident and is having to withdraw from classes for the semester. And so either Sister Sharon or I are often the person who might be really sitting down with parents and helping them walk through their situation and provide support. What's really challenging about times like that, on top of the emotional distress that a family may be experiencing, is to also know that there's really a big financial impact. And so tuition insurance allows a student, if they withdraw for medical reasons, that includes mental health, that they get 75% of their tuition back. So when you balance the cost of the tuition at St. Thomas with that, I can't help but push to all of you to really consider whether tuition insurance is something you might want to purchase for your student. None of us likes to think that our student's going to be the one that something happens to, but every semester we have students who face some kind of really challenging time. So please consider the tuition insurance. And my final notes for you are, again, to compare notes with your students about what they talked about in their session today. Their session was called Because We Are Tommies. We covered a lot of the same material. I encourage you to talk with them about that. And after August 10th, please know that if you wanted to revisit any sessions, there will be web videos online that you could go back and watch from today. And here's a few dates to highlight. Make sure you all know if your student is a commuter student, we have a special welcome dinner on August 30th for them. September 1st is when all of our first-year students move in. Unless they're part of a living learning community, they'll get notice that they'll move in a little bit earlier. And then September 1 through 5, that's welcome days, and we will keep your students very engaged for those 5 days. A lot of fun social activities, some really good educational programming that will occur, and we do expect all first-year students. It's an extension of orientation that happens over welcome days. And then hopefully we'll see a lot of you back over Homecoming and Family Weekend, October 6th through 8th. So with that, we want to thank you for your time this morning. We will have representatives at the information fair this afternoon, so if you can talk to any department individually at that time. I have time for tops 2 questions, if there's anything that everybody really wants the big group to, might pertain to the whole group. Yes. Sure. On September 1st, your students will receive a communication that will designate for them their window for move-in. So they will get a communication about that. Thank you. Is there one more question for the larger group? Okay. Well, thank you. I hope the rest of your day goes great, and your students are going to be joining us in just a moment. All right. Thank you.